How's it going, guys? Malagant here. We are gonna look into my Falconer, and in this video I'll try to cover pretty much everything that the build has to offer. And I'll try to answer the questions that might come my way as well. But if you have anything that you would like to ask after watching this video, please. And if you'd like to add something, if you would like to suggest something, anything, or if you would like to see an extra content about this character, please feel free to drop a comment down below. Thank you very much for joining and watching. So let's start from pros and cons, and then I'll show you an echo as well right after. I'm in a low corruption right now, by the way. I'm only level 97. This is my second Falconer. It's exactly the same build almost. I've obviously changed some decisions that I was making along the way, and I only play my builds. I don't even have time to check other people so much, but there are sometimes suggestions in my Twitch chat where they're telling me, perhaps you should check this out, and I'm like, okay, let's check it out. And if it turns out to be crazy good or whatever, I obviously switch to that. But recently there was some news from EHG where they were talking about, nerfing this line right over here with a Shadow Falcon and multiple dives. For instance, I'm not using that in my build, and the build is still pretty strong. I would imagine it's not that strong as that bugged version of the build, but it still is pretty up there. You will see. So I am on low corruption right now because I'm farming my blessings. The capability of the character, probably even the one that you're going to watch with this amount of gear and optimization, let's say, it can probably do about 300 corruption very easily right now, and it probably wouldn't even die if I play it right. But there's no need for me to take that risk. So since I have only one life, I'll slowly increase my corruption. But the damage is there. You will see that it can probably even destroy 600 corruption when it comes to its damage. Perhaps except Oribus and stuff, it might be very shaky then, where it needs to be ramping up. So how does the character play? About pros and cons. The character has ridiculous mobility, guys. If you like traversing fast, this is one of the better classes to play. And at the same time, there's something very interesting going on thanks to this node over here. The agility is capable of giving you 1% incremented, so it's an additive damage increase to everything though. That's the interesting thing, per movement speed. So when I am sitting at 55%, I'm gaining 55% spell damage, 55% melee damage, 55% bow damage. You get the idea. It continues till the entire line, except minion stuff. So it needs to be a personal attack. But luckily our dive bomb is that way. But the interesting thing is that it can double dip or triple dip. What I mean by that is that just because of 1% movement speed, I'm gaining, look at the tags of the dive bomb. It's physical, so I'm gaining 1% physical damage, but I'm also gaining 1% melee damage. So it's kind of an interesting thing in that scenario. That's out of the way about movement speed. The more movement speed that you have, the more damage that you're going to be dealing with your dive bomb, obviously. Apart from that, our other good stuff is basically clearing and gaining from it. So screen clear is extremely important and extremely fun to do, because the more monsters are in your screen, the more these stacks that you're going to be gaining, and perhaps I can show them to you. Aerial prowess, and you're going to be gaining avian arsenal as well. There is actually, I want to say, one more even. Yes, there's the talon blades also. So all these things are working together, especially when you're clearing the screen and there are lots of monsters. You gain more of these, and all of those combined are going to be making your next hit insane. Basically, you gain your crit from this also. It's extremely important, the base crit for your dive bomb. You're going to be seeing the character. So that's another pro, is that while clearing, if you can gather things together, you're going to be just excelling both for damage and clear speed. The character uses the shrines extremely well as well, especially the movement speed shrine. It's ridiculous for you. Let's jump into one of these things before jumping into cons. Another pro is that the character is very, very easy to gear. It's ridiculously easy to gear because all you need is dexterity, a woven flesh, which is a boss drop, reliable boss drop. Even in Circle of Fortune, you can easily find this by killing the first boss right over here. The Fall of the Outcast boss. is dropping this thing. And it's, as you can see, like I don't even have an LP version at level 100. I should give a little bit more information. I'm only level 7 on my Merchant's Guild. This is because this is my first character in Merchant's Guild. So with this character, I have actually gotten to level 7. And today on stream, I'm hoping to hit level 8, where I'm going to be buying an LP version of Woven Flesh, and then I'll turn it to Legendary. And Talons of Valor is yet another thing that you should go for. This is a ridiculous weapon that I'm wielding right now, obviously. But even a normal version of Talons of Valor, literally, as long as you have 4 dive bomb on it, is good enough for you to get going, and it only requires level 30, so your character is going to be going in and kicking in extremely early on, which is another pro. As I was saying, it is very, very easy to gear the character. All you're searching for is some crit avoidance, some minion damage, and some dexterity. All these things are ridiculously good, and it is sort of simple, let's say, to understand how you can get tanky in this character. However, even though it is simple to understand, and I'll cover this in the upcoming moments a little bit more, it can actually be very complicated to survive and also to build that defense with this character. So that's going to be one of the cons that I'll mention, but I'll talk about like defenses a little bit more in the upcoming moments. I'm only, as I said, in 140 corruption, so this is nothing deadly. But you could still probably see how the character is going to be playing. So let's play a little bit and then we talk again. So this is the Falcon Strikes. It's basically covering a screen with like a dashing Falcon, right? And I can jump into stuff like this to not only damage them, but also gain a lot of stacks. When I gain a lot of stacks, I hit very hard with my next anything. But mostly, you want to hit with dive. So if there's like a fat single target, you want to target it with dive. Apart from that, for screen clear, you want to screen clear with either dive or the Falcon Strikes, the dashes again. And again, when you start doing harder and harder content, you also want to be using your net. And your net is auto-casting your smoke bomb. So what I am doing is that like I'm running around, I am netting things. And then I am either dive bombing or Falcon striking to clear that zone. And then I'll be traversing with my aerial assault. This button right over there. So it is a little bit complicated to play. Or it is a little bit like a piano style to play, let's say. You kind of do need to like use almost all of the buttons except the smoke bomb, because again, the smoke bomb is being auto-casted by your net. Ring of Research. I have quite a few of those, it's fine. When it comes to like damage, you can hit all the way up to like 2 million. I have seen a 2 million number. It kind of depends on like what sort of stacks you have going. What's your movement speed at the moment? We usually run around with like 111% movement speed when I gain haste and the temporary mark buff from my pets. 121 right there without movement speed. But usually on average it's about like 111 with my gear at least. And I'm guessing you're going to be about my gear as well, because my gear is nothing special, let's say. Alright. So that will be all when it comes to like showing. The single targets of the character is not bad whatsoever. Like you can definitely delete the bosses as well. But again, my character right now is not that strong because it's my second Falconer and we're building up. There are definitely some good items like the Talons of Valor right over there. The Advent actually like managed to roll pretty nicely as well. And I would actually advise you to go for this as well. I'll jump into like talking about the itemization a little bit further. I do have some decent pieces, but I also have some like very bad optimization right now that like I need to use some specific idols to like fix my resistances. Or I have like some bad bases that I wouldn't like to use whatsoever, like this one, that one over there, and then this one is pretty bad base right now as well. So you know, like there's quite a few upgrades that I'm going to be searching for 100%, including my blessings that I dislike right now. So about the cons, I have started talking about defenses. Let's talk about that a little bit more. As I said, it's very simple to understand how you survive with this character, and I'll cover that right now. As a rogue and as a falconer, with this build, how you take less damage is, well, if you're unfamiliar with the game's defenses, right, we have armor, which is mitigating literally everything except damage over time. And then we have the resistances that is coming after and trying to mitigate, you know, the corresponding type of resistance. If it's the physical, it goes through physical. And this is including the damage over time. So damage over time bypasses the armor. And afterwards, there's the health. Obviously, it's a pool, right? That's kind of like a resource that the damage will go through you. And then if you reach endurance, and in my case, my endurance is only, my endurance threshold is only 900. And my endurance is 40%. So after reaching 900 health, now I'm going to be having another damage reduction, which is 40% right now. You can bump it up all to 60%, and with a character like this one, we definitely want to get it to 60. I think I would like to get my endurance on my rings. It is very important, 100%. So, apart from these things that I have mentioned, which is like bread and butter of Last Epoch and exists on every single character, which you should consider, there's also the fact that like this character right over here, because of his class and Falconer, it is taking less damage on the move. So we have right over here, evasion, damage taken while moving. So we want to keep on moving at all times. And then we have right over here the tailwind, which is double dipping if your Falcon has hit something in the past 2 seconds, 4 seconds, whatever. And it's always up, obviously. So 12% minus from there. And then we have 20% minus from there. I think that those are additive, in fact. So it's going to be 32% minus damage taken reduction there. Or back to back. I'm not really sure, actually. But I do believe it's additive. So that said, you're trying to be on the move to take less damage at all times. Even if you're like failing at something, you will survive just because of the fact that like you are not standing still, and you're not going to be getting stunned just because of the fact that you are moving. One last thing is going to be the glancing blows, and glancing blows are ridiculously big for your character. Again, this is yet another damage reduction, a layer that the rogue has to offer, and we're trying to maximize it. So 15% is coming from just rogue right over there, and then we have another layer over there, which is 10%, so we're coming up to 25% now. We'll come back to this in a moment. And then we have another 16% coming up right from there. So this is 41% glancing blow chance so far. On top of all of that, though, this guy, when you put 5 points into that, it says double the glancing blow chance if not hit recently. This is very interesting because like the 41% now becomes 82%, obviously. And I have exactly that right over here because we have not been hit recently. The character, from all of these defenses and mitigations that I talked about, it also offers you a dodge rating. Most of the ARPGs, you don't necessarily have some sort of like a reliable dodge, but Rogue has some sort of like a shrouding mechanic that is going on, yet another layer of defense. And these shrouds are like, you know, several different versions are available to you. One of them being like the Shroud of Crimson, the other one being is the Shroud of Dusk, the third one is being the Silver Shroud. You can gain literally all of them from Smoke Bomb. However, there are other ways of gaining these things too. So for instance, Crimson Skies over here in the Falcon tree. There's this coordinated fade over here with the Silver Shroud. And there's right over here the Shroud of Dusk, which I'm maxing out right now. The next 3 points are going to be going into this because it's not only giving me Dusk Shroud chance, but also health. So what do these shrouds do is that like these Crimson one is reducing the damage over time that you take. And remember, these are buffs. They're not always up. You need to gain this buff. You need to gain the Shroud as you're fighting. You need to do a specific thing to gain this buff, okay? But while you're inside your Smoke Bomb, you're going to be gaining most of the Shrouds because that's how the Smoke Bomb works. That's also why you will most likely end up seeing Smoke Bomb in most of the Rogue builds out there. So the Dusk Shroud is giving you more Glancing Blow, and also it gives you a little bit more dodge chance. And the Silver Shroud is very interesting, and this is also why I mentioned the dodge ability being like very RNG in all ARPGs, but in this one there's a reliable dodge. It is the Silver Shroud. Very interesting. When you have a Silver Shroud, the next hit that you're going to be taking is going to be 100% dodged, and then you will lose the Shroud. So, there's a node over here, the Coordinated Fade. This node is capable of giving you a Silver Shroud every time you press Q, okay? So, well, in my case it's Q. It's the first button over here, whatever is, you know, designated in your game. Whenever I press that ability, I'm going to be gaining the stacks of Silver Shroud, okay? And this has some sort of like a cooldown, obviously. When I lose it, I don't gain it immediately back. It's about like 2 seconds or something. However, the point is, when you're doing hard encounters with your Falconer, with this build, you always want to be netting stuff. They won't be able to move, and they're going to be getting the Caltrops under them, so you'll be stacking your buffs, and you'll be bleeding them. The more importantly though, you'll make sure that like you're keeping up your Silver Shroud at all times, and you'll be instantly gaining it if you have lost it before. So how it works is that all of those defenses that we talked about, right? You have a Silver Shroud on top of it, and now you will dodge the next hit. You dodge it, but remember, there's something else. There's this guy over here that's saying like glancing blow chance is doubled. So we are 100% going to be like glancing the next hit too. And it is still up. So we took one hit, right? Our Silver Shroud is lost. But now the next hit will hit us, will land on us, but now this time we are going to be glancing it, thanks to this. And after that glance, I really hope you will have the Silver Shroud back up again. So there's some sort of like a, you know, ping-ponging defense going on over there. This is also why the character is very, very susceptible to some sort of like a beam that I died to. So like a continuous damage that you're immediately failing in a, you know, fast succession damage that you're taking. That is very, very deadly for a character like this. That and damage over time. Especially the way that like I built this character. It is not so defensive against damage over time. There is some gloves that I couldn't find yet. Those are the gloves, in my opinion, that you should be running with a character like this. This is the base. Don't look at the stats, please. Just look at the base. It says up to 24% of armor mitigation also applies to damage over time. That's a very, very good stat, in my opinion, for late game, for any character out there, and for this character too. Apart from that, obviously gaining the Crimson Shroud would be really big, but I couldn't necessarily find a very reliable way to gain the Crimson Shroud all that much. Dive Bomb hits grants you a stack of Crimson Shroud per enemy hit up to a maximum of 3. And we are spamming Dive Bomb. Perhaps I should take the Red Wings. You could look into this if you would like to. Let's talk about skills, passives, itemization for the rest of the video, because I would imagine the video is going to be pretty long. And I can continue talking about this quite a bit, yeah. So, the skills, I have taken Dive Bomb, and the Talon Blades, ridiculously important, guys. Remember that. To gain the Talon Blades buff easier, you want to be putting 1 point into Featherfall, because it's also capable of like granting you, well, you could put more points, but I do believe that like those points could actually go somewhere else. The more points that you have in Dive Bomb, so if you can gain more pluses to Dive Bomb, the better, 100%. There are lots of nodes that can be considered, and I would actually like advise you to, you know, mess around with the bottom right also. Right now, in the game, as I'm making this video, it is incredibly overpowered, but I do believe that in the upcoming week, as I'm making this video, it's going to be nerfed to the ground because of a bug fix that is coming up. So it's apparently bugged. I don't necessarily know why, and I didn't really like look into it too much. So the Talon Blades is like your bread and butter, and Talon Blades is also capable of giving you movement speed, and we also talked about why movement speed is very important on this character, because it ends up becoming your damage. We're also taking Exsanguinating Strike. We are very, very easy building up some like bleeds on our targets, thanks to how the Caltrops are working, and we'll come to that shortly. Apart from that, I have taken just basically like cooldown reduction to the Dive Bomb up to 50%, but it's kind of like counteracting with this guy, which is giving you some cooldown back, but also damage. Devastating Dive. So it's like contracting each other there. There's the rushing wings, which is reducing the delay. First, when you mouse over this, you feel like maybe it's not necessary. But later on, you realize reducing the delay is very important on the dive, simply because when your bird is not there, you don't necessarily have so much damage. And when you dive bomb, the bird is not there anymore because there's this delay. Like, she just disappears and then falls from the air to the ground, right? So you want that delay to be the shortest because you want your bird to be available for you. And then there's the Focus Hunter, followed by the Cloud Gatherer. This is very good for single target because it's going to be increasing the duration of your smoke bomb on the ground, and versus single target, the smoke bomb will most likely be next to the boss at all times. And the Focus Hunter is just damage and mana cost reduction. I suppose like another pro that I can talk about the character is the fact that like there's no mana issues whatsoever. In Last Epoch, most of the characters that you're going to end up playing will probably have some sort of like a struggle with mana at one point, and then you will probably end up solving this issue, you know, by problem solving. It can definitely have like various different ways. Arch Reversal, and this is very interesting because Shift, right, as a rogue is ridiculously strong. It gives you immunity, it gives you no target necessary crazy mobility. But I'm opting to use Aerial Assault. There are several reasons for this. One of the reasons is because of the Aerial Prowess, which is yet another stacks that you gain by jumping into packs. And this Aerial Prowess stacks are capable of being used for your dive bomb thanks to the Terror Wings. So it's not only like Ballista, Explosive Trap, but also dive bomb can actually consume all of these stacks to deal even more damage. This is very good for single targets. It is a bit of like defensive mechanic of the aerial is the fact that like it's capable of healing you for the missing amounts of health. So if I'm missing like 1000 health, it's going to be healing me for 500 when I leap. Apart from that, the biggest reason is basically Caltrops, and also the fact that like the bow that we're running is capable of giving us +4 to aerial assault. In my case, it is +2. So if you can end up like finding a +4/4/4 bow, it is obviously better, but then you will also need to be finding an LP2, then you'll also like want to make it legendary into it the right stats. You know, it's a little bit complicated to find the best bow, so something's got to give. Let's talk about Caltrops a little bit. What they are serving, like what are they doing in my build? What kind of like purpose they're serving? Now I can talk to you about the fact that like Caltrops are capable of scaling according to the monster's hitbox. If the monster's hitbox is very big, if it's like crazy big, now the Caltrops are going to be that much more effective because like the thing that you see on the floor is you can see over here like every single Caltrop is in fact capable of like dealing damage. They're very little. But the more important thing is the fact that like these things are also capable of putting their own stacks, such as the slow stacks, and they're also capable of putting their own bleed stacks. Now, I'd like to have the 4th points over here is 3 out of 4 right now, but I don't have enough points remaining. Perhaps I could take 1 point from healing the Gust to the Rending Barbs, but I should probably find a better bow, is what it comes to it. And apart from that, it's going to be throwing more Caltrops. Now, the interesting thing is that, like, with the net, which is also giving you the Caltrops, right? This was the aerial assault. The net is also giving you the Caltrops. They are editing the Caltrops in such way that it is kind of like, you know, making some sort of like a synergy, and they're capable of using it both. So the net is going to be giving you some area, while the aerial assault is going to be giving you some slow chance and bleed chance. The net is going to be giving you crit chance, and that's pretty much about it. So my Caltrops is going to have high crit chance, and we do need the crit chance, by the way. It's pretty interesting, and it's going to be putting bleeds on the targets, where your dive bomb is going to be hitting harder with the exsanguinating strike, right? And because of the thing that I said about like the hitbox and like how every single Caltrop is like putting 1 bleed by themselves, you will be, you know, getting 30 stacks immediately versus any target, where, you know, that's the maximum amount of stacks that the exsanguinating strike can utilize. And on top of all of that, your targets will always be slowed. And we're kind of utilizing the slow as well, in fact. Let's talk about the Falconry a little bit, what we are doing here. I've messed around with this right over here, quite a bit in fact, and this is the best one that I could have come up with. I would like to put perhaps 2 more points into this. I think it is very, very big, like ridiculous. But to be able to do that again, I need a better bow. My bow is only giving +2 to falconry. I would like to have +4 to falconry, obviously, and it is very important. So if you can find a 444 bow, by all means, it's ridiculously good. So the Falconer's mark basically says that like your pet is sometimes marking the target, and this increases its chance. And whenever you consume this mark, and that is what net does, whenever you consume this mark, you not only buff your pet with avian arsenal, but also your next hit is going to be hitting harder, which is the dive bomb. And it is pretty big, but this is additive. It is not necessarily multiplicative with other values, but it's a very, very big value. When you have 3 points into it, it's 150%, so it's going to be hitting very, very hard. I'm not necessarily sure, so this is the only point that I couldn't grab properly, but I think Wake of Wings is in fact not working for us. I would really appreciate if somebody can, at least with this setup, right? So like whenever I consume the mark, I should be able to move faster. But I couldn't necessarily understand the Wake of Wings over here, and my buffs, I don't see it. On my movement speed, I've been like trying to track it. I couldn't really see it. I do still have 1 point into it, but to be perfectly honest with you, I would like to put this point into here instead. I'm just keeping it there because just in case, if it's working, it's pretty big. 15% movement speed for me. On the right side, this is just very self-explanatory. The Hunter's Spoils is very interesting because it says your Falcon's kills or hits on a rare target is actually healing you and granting you mana. This is very interesting. It's not only the auto hits, it's also the Falcon strikes. So like when you, sometimes you're like 50% HP remaining and like you use Falcon strikes and brrr, you go back to full HP. It's extremely good. Just because of this node right over here. This is also why you want to like increase the amount of obviously the Falcon's melee attack speed. Like I cannot stress enough how important the Falcon's melee attack speed node is and how important that stat is. And simply you can gain this from like very few resources or like places. So it is very difficult to gain this. I think there's another way over here, like speed. Let's see, that guy maybe? This is movement speed. Where is the Falcon attack speed, guys? Falcon increased melee attack speed 10%. There it is. So, like, it is very difficult to gain that, and it's very important. Please remember that. So, Falcon's kill threshold, absolutely crazy. This is also why, like, you want to have your Falcon strikes ready for about, like, 20% life remaining on a boss. This is extra hits per kill or per rare hits. Very good for the strikes, of course. And then we have a very interesting section over here that says like your highest damage value is actually buffing your Falcon. And this one is saying like, this is also why I was saying like double dipping, but also triple dipping on the movement speed. Because like now, just because you were moving faster, you have like all these values like bumped up. But now they're translating to your pet as well. It's very interesting. And now your crit chance is the same. This is also why we have the Shadow Hunter over here, which is giving me 10% crit chance. So I can like snapshot this into the Falcon, and sometimes you will see, even though you don't necessarily have the crit shrine, your Falcon will just like go absolutely insane when it comes to crits. Everything is gonna be crit. That is basically when you manage to snapshot it. An exposed weakness. This is going to be basically translating crit multi from you to your pet. It's like a stacking version of a buff. The last things are going to be you are dealing more damage. Your Falcon is dealing more damage against targets that are not only moving, but also your Falcon deals more damage globally. This effect is tripled for Falcon strikes, so it's like basically 45% multiplicative more damage to your Falcon strikes. Just absolutely nuts. Like these are mandatory to take. When I'm looking at this, the only thing that I'm regretting not having is 2 points here, the Falconer's mark, and 1 point right over here could be a little bit useful, but especially on single targets. Your nets. I know I'm going to be getting a lot of questions about like, do you really need net in this build? I do. It has lots of synergy with the Caltrops, with like just CC coming your way, with frailty stacks, ridiculous. But on top of it all, you have this exposed bait that is crazy good on single targets. So this is also why like you're ramping with your Falcon. Your Falcon deals more damage. Like, remember, your dive bomb is your Falcon, your Falcon strikes is your Falcon, but not only that, your entire damage is kind of your Falcon. So like 40% multiplicative damage on the target that you have netted is ridiculously big. On top of it all, obviously, like we talked about the Caltrops, there's the fact that like Into the Shadows is there. So whatever you introduce here, instead of like net, now you're putting the pressure to yourself. Well, now you're gonna need to like press the smoke bomb yourself. At the start of the video, I have mentioned this. We have like this soft capped, hard cap, whatever you want to call it, cooldown reduction that we want to reach, where every single net and then a dive bomb on top of it will need to ensure that like the smoke bomb is staying up versus single target. Again, while we're moving, we don't care so much. Up until the next cooldown of smoke bomb, so that they are always inside the smoke bomb and you're capable of using the entire buffs of the smoke bomb throughout the fight. Yeah, it's very, very important, definitely. And the smoke bomb, again, is capable of giving you not only crit chance, crazy amounts of base crit chance translates to your Falcon as well, some Crimson Shrouds, some Dusk Shrouds, which is the glancing, and then it also cleanses you, and some Silver Shrouds. But Silver Shrouds, the ones that we are gaining, are not necessarily from the smoke bomb, it's more so the passives that I've showed in the talent tree. Because like we're spamming the net. You need to be spamming the net 100%. So if like those two, the Falcon strikes and the dive bomb is in cooldown, you need to be spamming the nets. I think we have covered pretty much like everything. Now let's go over the passives a little bit. Right over here, this was like the finalized form that I have done on this character, and I think this is what I'm comfortable with. The things that I would have liked to mess around with is, I messed around with like apostasy a little bit. I even made a video about this like on a build update or past week, where I was thinking this is pretty good because like I'm gonna gain glancing, but I will lose dodge. The problem is losing dodge, like 20% dodge, look over here, like 18% dodge is fine. The problem is losing the Silver Shrouds, so I couldn't commit to it. Losing the Silver Shroud is just far too big, you know. You need to be able to reliably dodge that next attack, so that yeah, you glance the attack after, and then you Silver Shroud again. Yeah, it's very, very big. Apart from that, this node right over here just sets the tone when it comes to like how important maximum health is for your character. It's very important, guys, because the more health you have, the more threshold you have. All you have to do now is, never mind going for endurance threshold to make endurance valuable, because you already have the endurance threshold very valuable because of this, just 5 points here. Now you all have to do is get your endurance to 60%. I'm having a hard time getting it right now, but if I have to guess, the best place to get it is from rings suffixes. Ring suffixes is probably the better place to get the endurance up there. This is mandatory. This guy, you could definitely sacrifice some points, but 80 health for 8 points is pretty big, like very big. Mandatory 5 points, hands down, 5% crit rate for your Falcon. You could even look into putting more points into this. Not the biggest deal. Absolutely insane. Crazy base damage to your Falcon and to you as well, which is, you know, going ahead and buffing your dive bomb. Any dexterity that you see on the tree, you kind of need to take it, but at the same time, increased armor is very, very strong. As I said at the beginning of the video, guys, armor is like bread and butter for any character out there, and the more armor you have, the less the rest of the defenses are gonna have to do. So, like, because armor is capable of mitigating literally everything, first come, first serve deal, except damage over time. So it's crazy important to have a high armor, even on a character like this one. So I try my best to get that. If you haven't watched my blessing video, I kind of stressed the fact that like the armor values from the blessings is very important, and we have a decent roll here. I managed to farm them yesterday, 54 out of 55, and this is 299 out of 320. If you haven't checked my blessing video, check it out. And that gives me good mitigation right over here. So like, it's important that you like sit on something like this. To be honest with you, I would like to be like 55%. I'll probably crawl towards 50% with better bases, like better belt base and better gloves base, and maybe a suffix somewhere as well. We'll see. Maybe I'll try to like put some armor on my chest when I make it legendary. I might. Apart from this, so this node is pretty big because it's like both armor and dodge, and on top of that it's dexterity. This guy, 3 points, very good. It gives you some sustain with your Falcon. It heals you. Dexterity correlating into armor. I like stuff like this where like it puts more importance, or like it gives another wing to an already useful stat. In this game, there's a lot of stuff like this, and this node right over here is giving another meaning to your dexterity, which I'm already trying to stack as high as possible. By the way, I have no... I don't necessarily have high dexterity right now. High dexterity is like 110, 120. That's high. So it's like I'm half as much, so we could get so much more armor just because of this node right over here. This mandatory node, tailwind, moving faster, taking less damage while moving, more dodge rating. Mandatory node, crit avoidance, and this is also going to be the finalizing nodes for my video. It is the finesse them, which is giving you a ridiculous thing when you put 5 points into it. It tells you that like your minion now gains crit multi from your crit avoidance. So now crit avoidance stat is becoming something else. That is also why Woven Flesh right over here is extremely big for you. Because like it gives you 100%, you know, critical avoidance, but now that stat is 60 something percent, right, to crit multi for the Falcon. And now it becomes like so easy to like get so much crit multi, and crit multi is crazy big for you in this character. For a softcore player, I would go ahead and have crit avoidance everywhere that you can imagine. I would go ahead and have crit avoidance from Reign of Dragons as well. However, for a hardcore player, and for how difficult it has been to actually scale my defenses compared to my offenses, right, for how offensive this character is, I felt like, at least up until this moment, I felt like I don't necessarily need more offenses. I am taking it a little bit more chill with the crit avoidance, but like I cannot stress this enough. I am sacrificing insane amounts of damage numbers by just doing that. Okay, so like if I get crit avoidance on my gloves, on my rings, on my belt, on my boots, you get the idea. It is going to be translating into direct crit multi for my pets, and I can also stack crit multi on myself, which is going to be giving crit multi right over here to my pets again. So by this would be like Diablo 4 numbers. I really want you to understand. It would be just that high. It would be like millions of damage numbers all around the place. It would also be a squishy character, but if you would like to make that, feel free to do it. Another good part about the character when it comes to itemization, this is obviously not easy to do, but it's a good part. Because like my Paladin wasn't like this. The things that you want on this character, right, like pluses to skills like Net, Smoke Bomb, Falcon Strikes, which is Falconry, Aerial Assault, and then you have Dive Bomb. All of these things, they're all spread on your gear. You get the Falconry from your helm, you get the Dive Bomb from your chest, you get the Net and Smoke Bomb, if I'm not mistaken. No, sorry, wait. There's a confusion there. Hop. You get the... you might be getting all of the Aerial Assault, Smoke Bomb. Maybe Smoke is on the chest. Let's check it out. Okay. Smoke is body armor, and the Aerial and Net is relic. So, but as you can see, it's like very well spread, and you don't really need pluses on your Smoke, but I would say you do need the pluses on Dive Bomb from your chest. Definitely. So, at least the main ones, like Falconry, Dive Bomb, and then the third one, whichever you want, you could go for nothing also, is from your relic. I don't necessarily have a special relic right now. It's nothing special. There is one unique that let's finalize this video. It's called the Falcon Fist. This is an interesting one. The increased melee attack speed doesn't necessarily give you so much for this character. But an LP3 Falcon Fist, which the base is good as well. So if you can get the base like 15% endurance right? 75 armor. And then you have +4 to falconry, and it is also LP3, then in that case, that will be BIS for you, 100%. So this unique gloves, even though it's not necessary, I couldn't really find an LP3 version, but it would also need to be +4 to falconry, because it doesn't necessarily offer you almost anything else. Like the fire damage for your minions is kinda meh, because we're doing like mostly flames, for mostly physical, but I would imagine it will still give you quite the DPS, but that's not the most important thing over there. One last note is that there's something interesting going on when it comes to like our body armor and our helmet with the rogue. This guy right over here, the falconry armor and the falconry helmet, they're capable of giving you 24 melee and throwing damage for your falcon, and these are sort of like double dipping as well, because your falcon is in fact capable of using throwing attacks with your aerial assault because of the wing burst, with your feather fall, again throwing attack, and then it melees, right, with the falcon strikes and the dive bomb. So like those two bases, right, falcon armor and falcon helmet, they're absolutely broken, just so you know. So in, again, softcore, maybe woven flesh is not the best one to go for, but it would be a dream to find a falcon armor with not only 24 implicit roll to your falcon, but also a T7 crit avoidance roll at the bottom, you know. Like, it's just at this point, or like T7 dive bomb, I suppose. At this point, you're just pushing it, but you have the auction house available. If you can find it, well, be my guest. So this is a 40-minute video right over here. I'm gonna cut it right over here, yeah. So if you would have any questions whatsoever, and please feel free to do it down below. I'm sorry that I did not show too much gameplay. It was only like a 3-4 minutes, I think. Just a regular monolith echo run. We could do something right over here. Enemies are taking less damage, 25% less damage, so keep that in mind. Oh my. That's a bug, by the way. You get stuck sometimes like that. It happens to literally every character out there, though. I would like you to pay attention to this guy's bleed stacks while I'm fighting him, okay? And that's it. That's the single target, basically. It is, my character is not that great, and I've gotten an all resistance upgrade there. Very nice. Good finalizing moment for the video. I love that. I love that. Maybe I stopped farming this timeline now. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to leave a like and subscribe. I love doing this. I want to keep on doing this. And at the same time, if you have any questions at all, please feel free on the comment section down below. I hope the video is useful. Obviously, you can find some links in the description, such as like the build link. And you can find me on Twitch as well, twitch.tv/Malagant. Over there, you will see a lot of gameplay. And on this channel right over here, you're going to see lots of VODs, some shorts of like me crafting, and some guides about like builds, or just like thoughts about the game, and some guides about the game too. See you later.